How are you investing in the people that you lead? By the end of this podcast, you're going to have 3 tips for investing in the people that you lead. I'm Jono White, founder and principal consultant of Clarity. We work with leaders around the world, and I just want to thank you for subscribing and following, liking and sharing. If you haven't done that, please do that now, wherever you're watching or listening to this. It really helps us to get the word out to help more leaders to become the best they can be. So how are you investing in the people you lead? And that's the leadership question of the day. And the reason this is so important, I personally believe, and I would even go so far as to say that I'm on a mission to see organizations realize that their people are their greatest asset, not their building, not their strategy, not their IP, but their people are their greatest asset. And to realize that, you know what, investing in people is the most important thing that you can invest in, is people. And so for you as a leader, that's where this question comes from. How are you investing in the people you lead? It's really easy as a leader to be focused on the vision, and I want to achieve this and the goals, and my leader needs me to hit these KPIs, and in the midst of all of that, we can lose sight of the people we lead and they can just become a means to an end. But I want to encourage you that great leaders, in my experience, the greatest leaders who leave the best legacies, they have this done right. You know, they invest in people first and foremost. So like I said, 3 tips to make sure that you're investing in people. The first tip that I want to say for you around investing in people is make sure they don't feel anonymous. Make sure they don't feel anonymous. In Patrick Lencioni's book, The Truth About Employee Engagement, he talks about one of the 3 sort of pillars of an engaged employee. And in his experience, one of those pillars is this idea of anonymity, basically saying that when an employee feels anonymous in an organization, in a team, or ever as a volunteer, they will be disengaged, or they won't be as engaged as they could be. And so I just want to encourage you, if you want to invest in your people, we often jump straight to rewarding them. We jump straight to looking at their strengths or empowering them. But the first thing you can do is you can connect with the people that you lead, and you can help them to not feel anonymous, help them feel known. And there's really easy ways to do that. For some of you, this will come really naturally. You're already a very relational person. You're naturally one to have a 10-minute conversation about the social things of life rather than jumping straight to task. But for other people, this won't come naturally. You're a task person. You jump straight into task mode, straight into project mode. This needs to get done. So for you, this is a big area to work on. And the simplest thing I would say is to just spend a couple of minutes every as often as you can. For some of you, that'll be weekly. For some of you, that'll be as often as daily. Just spend a couple of minutes saying, hey, you know what, forget about work for a second. How are you doing? What's happening with the family? And just get to know them. Find out something about them. You do this in a team setting where you actually get people to just share a little bit of who they are, and then take that on board. So that's the first thing I want to say, is anonymity. The second thing when it comes to investing in people is to do something based on strengths. Like I said, this is often where we jump to, but I started with anonymity because I think it's so important that people feel known before we jump into empowering them and helping them with their strengths. But I find strengths is one of the best ways to invest in people. That's because when you look at strengths, you're looking at things that are truly unique about each person. Some of us have the same personality as each other, but our mixture of strengths using something like StrengthsFinder is unique. You know, there are 34 strengths in StrengthsFinder, so the top 5 for each person is often different from person to person to person, and it's great. It just gives you a real litmus test for who's wired in what way on your team. And then you can, just doing this actually is an investment in people. People will thank you. People will remember that. 10 years later, people will say, you know what was really helpful for me was when we did that strengths piece when I was on your team. And so doing something around strengths with your people. The third thing that I'd say for investing in the people you lead is to pass on your specialty skills. Pass on your specialty skills. Be generous. With the people you lead, don't feel threatened. If you want to be a great leader, great leaders aren't insecure. They're not threatened by the up-and-coming leaders they're leading. They're aware that there are some people that are sort of skillful politicians, and there are some people that will undermine. So I'm not saying that you'll never get hurt. I'm not saying you'll never get burned. But I am saying that if you want to be a great leader and you want to achieve the most you can in your career, and you want to leave the greatest legacy you can and have the greatest impact on the people you lead and on people through your leadership, then you need to let go of those insecurities and let go of that sense of feeling threatened, and go, whatever I can pass on, whatever I can upskill, even to the point where I would say find a way to help the people you lead to get even better than you are. That's what the greatest leaders do. And it can seem counterintuitive, particularly if you're in an environment where there is a lot of politics, but it's for the best, and it makes such a big difference in people's lives. I remember doing this in a setting where I had a couple of people on my team who were much younger, and there was just a particular way that I did something that for me, I probably only took half an hour to explain it. And it's just one of those things that you pick up a way of doing something after having done it for many years that just makes sense to you, and it's like a bit of a key that just unlocks more productivity. So I remember just taking half an hour with these two people, and I ran through it with them. Years later, I'm talking 5 years later, I know they're no longer in a team that I'm leading. I run into them at the shops, and we were chatting, and they brought up that particular skill, and they said, "Thank you so much. I still remember that, and I still use that because it was so valuable." And so don't underestimate those things that have come out of 10, 20 years experience in your world where you've picked up the way to do something. Share those things, be generous with it, and go into work, or go into, if you're in a volunteer role or on a board, go into it every day going, how can I invest in the people that I lead or that I'm leading with to help them become even better than I am at what we're doing? Because that's how the greatest leaders leave the greatest legacies, is by investing in people. How are you investing in the people you lead? If this has helped you to get clear in your leadership, then wherever you're listening or watching right now, I'd encourage you to comment with the word clarity. Everything we do is about helping leaders to get clarity. And we also just, once again, thank you for sharing and liking and following and subscribing. If you haven't done that, subscribe or follow now, wherever you're watching or listening. That really will keep you in the loop. We have amazing content coming out all the time, including, we've had more than 1,000 leaders do our 7 questions on leadership. But it also means that every time you like and you share, there are more leaders that we can invest in to become the best leaders that they can be. So we really appreciate that. Once again, I'm Jono White from Clarity. Thanks for spending some time with me, and I'll catch you next time. Cheers.